All right. Hello, everyone. This is Catherine Barnes, and I am so excited tonight. I have a special guest who is another Tucson Fringe participant, and he has the coolest name, I think, of almost anybody that I've ever met. His name is Lion Fludd, and he is a magician.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I get that often with the name as well.
I mean, it's super cool. Like, is it, I guess I won't ask you if it's a stage name.
Oh,
But
no problem. I don't
oh,
mind
really?
telling it that story either. So it's actually part of my full name. My full name is 13 letters long. And so it just became like a little shortened portion of it. It's Aurelius Leon, which is Greek and French,
Oh, wow.
from my family's heritage. And my great grandma was from France and the heritage and so forth. But no one could ever pronounce it in school, so they just kind of started calling me Lion, which means Greek, which is Lion of God in Greek, for my full name. So, but yeah, it's part of a stage name, but part of my full name.
Awesome. I love it. And tell us the title of your show at Tucson Fringe.
So in some more simplistic form, the show is called The Hustle. Um, yeah, and I went many years back and forth of what to my show's name. And I've had many names, and I finally settled on A Hustle because I remember one time I was soul searching in a way to find what my show was. And I said, just be true to who I am. And I grew up learning the hustle on the actual streets of New York and other parts of the States and so forth. And I just said, I'm going to do that. And if people like it, they do. And if they don't, then hey. So,
Hey, okay, that's very cool. So, did you start doing magic on the streets of New York? Where did you learn magic?
partly. Yes and no. So I started performing, just saying performing. I started doing things in New York, partly when I would go there in the summer times and so forth. And I didn't know it was magic. I literally was one of those kids that you would see out. I was the spotter where you see people doing the 3 card Monty and those kind of games. And we had the cardboard box, and the cops came, we were running. Right? So that's where I literally started learning portions of that. And I didn't know that that was incorporated into the magic world. One thing most people don't know about the magic history is that most gamblers, like back in the Western days, when you see the movies of them doing card cheats and whatever, they were doing methods that were employed by magicians. Magicians,
Oh,
they would
wow.
work with them, and then magicians would teach them how to count cards and uh, do little things. Or if you saw something shoot out of their sleeve with a card, thing, and they would steal a card and play that, in the Western movies and stuff. Those are actual magician techniques, and so forth. So I was kind of like me. I didn't know I was doing magic, but I was doing hustling and literally, um, you know, watching out for the police officers and so forth if they were coming. So that's kind of how I got started in it, I guess. But I didn't do magic as a kid. I didn't knew nothing of it.
Wow. So, when did it start for you that you started doing like official magic?
Yeah, the crazy part of that was is no, don't get me wrong. I knew of magic as a kid, but I grew up very impoverished, and we were more worried about food than playing with a card trick, right? So I officially started when I was in the Marine Corps. I'm retired, and I got injured, and I was rehabbing in a hospital after a couple of my surgeries, and I was going stir crazy, bored, just needed something. I saw a magic trick online. It made me kind of smile for the first time because I had to learn to rewalk. I had 4 knee surgeries and a whole backstory with that. And I was like, oh, you know what? I smiled and I just want to learn a little bit more. So I ordered a book and a DVD and started learning. I started doing tricks for my therapists who would come in, and it made them smile, and it kind of made me smile. And then they would eventually wheel patients into the room, and I would do tricks for them. And when I was able to move, they would wheel me to other rooms, and that kind of snowballed. And it was like a big therapy session for me in a way. And that's one reason why one of my first starts of my shows, I called my show therapy session And I was like, it was a great way to bring therapy session. Some it has a negative connotation. You know, you go to therapy and it's like, oh, a therapist, right? But sometimes it helps you. It makes you come out of a shell. It makes you laugh, makes you whatever. And so that's initially what I call my show. But that's my story of how I got started in magic. And then I just said, you know what, I'm going to do this because every day I would go into work, my like staff, my sergeants, my everyone, they would, hey, Fludd, let me see your magic trick. So I would be at home like, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? Because I know they're going to ask me, but I never performed. I just did a magic trick here and there. And then when I finally retired, I said, you know what, let me do this. And I started that journey to become a professional magician.
Wow. So what was that journey like?
It is transformative. It was crazy. I was literally, so I started off just doing little tricks for kids. That was kind of my first thing I started. And so when I first got out the service, and most people, service people would tell you, it's a big learning curve to come back to civilian world. So being a Marine, especially, we were very straightforward, rigid, and I had to learn to be tactful. I was very just, someone asked me a question and I was boom. So now here I am doing kid shows. And I literally, and most parents, when they have a kid come to your show, to me, it was like that magician was just a babysitter. They would let their kids run around, do whatever, grab my props. And so I would tell the kids, like, hey, stop, get away. And I would push the kids because it was still part of my Marine mentality. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time, and then that became a part of my kids' title. I remember one time setting up a show, and I said, you know what? I don't even know why I'm doing this show. I don't even like kids. So, but they started laughing, right? And I was like, I don't think they know I'm serious. Right? And so I said, okay. So I kept going with that. And I named my kids shows like I Really Hate Kids. And I would do things within the show and parents would laugh. And I was like, look, kid, I'm about to kick you and blah, blah, blah. And so that kind of spun with that. And with adult shows and just kind of grew from that. And then I guess my most important moment, I guess, is when I was living in Kentucky. I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this magic thing for real, then I need to make that decision. So I jokingly say, almost like a country song, I packed everything I had. I sold everything I had that would not fit in my vehicle. And I packed everything I could. And me and my dog, and I had a pet bearded dragon in the aquarium, drove to Las Vegas, Nevada, didn't know anyone. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And I literally did it.
I love it. I love it. So why Vegas? Is that just like Hollywood for magicians?
Yes, it's the mecca of entertainment. It's where anyone comes where you can stand a chance to make it here because they're always looking for acts or always it's entertainment capital in a sense, right? So I knew New York was more Broadway, more acting. Of course, it does entertainment, but Vegas was like the entertainment spot for magicians. And I said, this is where I'm going to go. Plus, at the time, I think it was just cheaper than going to New York. It was like definitely. To find an apartment here was way cheaper than try to find one and then make it in New York. And so I've been in Vegas for almost 10 years, performing and living out my dream for being a magician.
Wow, I love it. And so you go to Vegas and all you've got, I love the image of you with your everything you own, your dog everything. And your bearded dragon in the aquarium.
Yes.
When we were chatting a little before the interview, though, you mentioned that now you have a kid, right?
Yes.
And a wife. And so yes. Do they help you at all with your magic? Do they participate?
Absolutely. My wife is my biggest fan. I adore her so much, mainly because she puts up with me always asking her to see a trick. Anytime I want to practice something, I'm like, hey, babe, let me show you this. And she indulges me. And I know she's like, okay, you know, but oh, yeah, great, honey. So she's my biggest fan. My son, he did a talent show. He's in the second grade. And he did a talent show for his first grade one. And he did magic. And also, he and I, probably about a couple of years ago, we went on Fremont Street, which is like another little strip area in Vegas.
Mhm.
And I had him out on the street busking, which means he was performing. He had a little table. I got video pictures of it, and he was working for tips. He had to be like 5 years old trying to do magic tricks because he asked me for something, to buy something. I was like, you're going to go earn some money. And so he went down there, and people, of course, paid him money just because he looked cute, probably. But it was so cute and fun to see him out there doing magic tricks for people. And he mimics me a lot with the magic now. Like yesterday, he just went and did the Rubik's Cube. He started to try to learn that because Rubik's Cube is one of the things that I do often within my shows and stuff like that. But yes, I take him everywhere when we get a chance to go perform because I use that as a way to broaden his horizon, show him other parts of the world, show him other things. He's went to San Francisco, with Seattle, almost every place we go that he can go with, if it doesn't affect school and some other things, we'll take him. And I use that performance area more so as a chance to just take them to sightseeing, to tour. And I don't want them to be a magician. I tell them to go to school, of course, finish college and so forth. But it does my heart good just to see him even wanting to mimic me, even if he doesn't want to do magic. Sure.
My AirPods keep turning on, and it's messing up the sound. So look, I don't know what to do except throw these into another room. I will edit this part out. So
no problem.
Okay, let's see if that solves the problem. Okay, so I love that you, like your son, first of all, that you're encouraging him to busk. I think that is brilliant because you're absolutely right that people will give, like you said, people go, oh, their kids are cute. So it's really great for kids to busk.
Yeah.
Second, I love that he is imitating you and trying to do the same things you're doing. And that you're taking him with you on your performances, right? So he gets to see different places. And then you say, stay in school, son.
Yeah, I do. Because I love the magic portion of it. And I give that advice to a lot of other up and coming magicians who ask, hey, how do I get into magic? And I tell them, you don't. I jokingly say it, not to discourage them, but I say, their mindset is not into the business world. There's two parts of this. It's there's the tricks and the portion, but now you got to learn. Especially if you don't get an agent or something, you got to book your own shows. You have to do your own contracts, your own taxes. It is a business. So I jokingly tell them don't unless you are willing to do that other stuff as well, or get someone to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. So that kind of leads me to my next question I have for you. Talking about, it sounds like you're someone who really had the business down, right? You've been in Vegas for 10 years, you said. And so what happened for you when the pandemic hit? How did that impact you as a performer and also as a business person?
Sure. So two answers for that. One, within the realm of performance-wise in which I do, and most other magicians, it actually was a good thing. One, it forced us, most performers in any genre will tell you, you have to learn to adapt. You have to be able to just think on your feet and, just change up because you never know what could happen. The microphone could go off or whatever. You have to learn to adapt. So we as magicians, we had to learn to adapt to a virtual space. Now that was harder because most of our things involve people using their hands or being close or being able to see it. And that feeling was taken away from us and for them as well. But it also gave us a chance to perform more for people who wouldn't get to see us, people who wouldn't be able to come to Vegas or come to San Diego or come to wherever city that we're going to be in. We could reach out and reach 5,000 people versus maybe a private party of 200 people. So once we learned to adapt to a virtual space, we actually were able to perform more. At least I was. I'm sure tons of magicians were as well, because people were seeking something to help them through that time of being stuck in the home, of not having something to do, you know. And so we would do a show, and I would say, hey, you know what? Um, $20 for a household. Doesn't matter how many people are in the home to watch the show. You can have 25 people, you know, it's just so then now I can maybe do 6 or 7, 8 homes, and they all could watch the show at once and everyone could still experience it. So the pandemic made us shift, but I think it actually helped people who needed to get out of their comfort zone and who also were able to uh, get their genre out for more people to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that I've heard a lot of people in the acting and in the music world say something similar.
Yeah.
Are you doing so? You're doing your show at Tucson in person, correct?
Correct. And one of the things that I have worked extremely hard with is to find a way to separate myself and my show from the majority of magic performers.
Mm-hmm.
Most magicians have a specific style that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to find a way because when I first got in, I didn't know who I was in magic. I had no idea. So I mimicked a lot of other magicians. And then I found, and your audience, I can tell you for any performer who is thinking about any type of performance, your audience can tell when you're not who you are. If you're trying to be real, they know if you're acting and you're trying to be an actor within a scene or something, that's understandable. But if I'm a magician, I'm being me, but I'm trying to be fake. And what I mean by that is I came in with the top hat and the tuxedo, and I was like, because that's what I saw all other magicians do, and that wasn't me. I wasn't authentic, and the responses just weren't the same. So I learned to become me and embrace who I was. I was a hustler. I was a young kid who was on the street, who learned how to pickpocket, literally, who learned how to steal from stores because we didn't have food. And it was, that's all, I had to learn to do something, right? So I learned to hustle. I learned to do the 3-card thing and come home with money to say, hey, look, I got some money to go buy some meat or something. I literally had to do that. And I embraced that. And I think people started to appreciate it more within my show. One quick story, and this is a story that I tell within my show. So one day we are doing our thing and we're on the corner and I don't know what happened. No one saw the officer and they snuck up on us. I got handcuffed, about maybe 14 years old, walking me to the squad car. And as we got to the car, I reached out and said, excuse me, sir, I got that for you. And I went to open the door for him. I had picked the handcuffs by the time we left the spot where he handcuffed me. So we got to the car. And so he took me in, bought me a sandwich and talked to me. And kind of like, that was my redirecting thing, right? But I tell that story within my show, which is a prelude to me then doing a escape performance, within the show. But yeah, it's a little funny little thing. I talk about how the streets taught me how to do that, but then I used it to my advantage. And yeah.
Wow, I love that. So is your show, it sounds like your show also tells a story, like it also tells your story. Is that how your show works?
Absolutely. I remember a few years ago, and I still have this article. I did San Diego Fringe.
No way. When did you do it?
I have to double check and see. I think it was 2016, 17, okay, somewhere around there. Okay. After this, I'll look the article up and then I'll send it to you and so forth. And they did an article with me in the paper, and the writer talks about how my show was a story and how I expressed it. But he said I wished he would have went more into it, and so I learned from those things. But yes, and that's why I say I try to separate myself from just being a magician. I don't want to just do a magic trick. And I'll send this. I don't know if you've seen this, and I highly recommend anyone to see this thing. It's on Hulu. It's called In and of Itself. It's a show with a magician called Derek DelGaudio, and he's on Broadway in New York. I can assure you that if you watch this, 9 times out of 10, at the end, you will be crying, little tears, because he uses his life experience as a story to express how he went through, and won't give too much away, but he talks about how, his mom came out to him at a certain point of time, and he's a young kid, and that flipped his world around, and then he went and told some of his friends, and then they turned on him, and then he turns it into a magic trick kind of a thing. And mine is similar in that way, in which I don't want to just do a magic trick. I want the audience, when they leave my show, to walk out and say, wow, I learned something from that. Yes, he did tricks, but it explains some things in life. I talk about influence in my show so much, about how things influence us. And I use a lot of the psychological properties from when I was in college within that. So instead of me just doing a trick, matter of fact, do you mind if I show you one to kind of show you an example?
I want to see it. I totally want to see it.
Okay, so for example, I use these cards, try to keep it in view here. I use these cards to kind of explain it. So I ripped this card in half. And even though it's ripped in half, one of these cards, it's still bigger than the other because it's not being ripped directly through the middle. So if you could tell me, matter of fact, we'll do it like this. The one by my ear and the one that's closer to the camera, which one do you think is bigger? Number 1 or number 2 by my ear?
I think it's number 2.
Number 2, right? And that is absolutely correct. Now, here's the thing though, most people don't see the difference in how big it actually is until it gets right up to them, right? So we just saw, so you can see how big that difference is. We saw one size, and now in the perspective, we see it different, right? So it's something just like that. I use that as how, in my show, I would say something like, hey, we can't look at everything in one size fits all, right? We can't look at one person fits into this box. And then I'll use that kind of imagery to explain and to explore within my show. Just a small little quick example of that. But yeah, that's what it's about.
That's super cool. So you talked earlier about finding your style of magic. So
yes.
Are there, I know some magicians. Actually, magicians are some of my favorite people that I've met at Fringe, but I don't really know that much about magic. So like,
sure.
What are the different styles?
Okay, there are a good bit. Within my studies of learning magic, and that's a great question because I'm going to say this as well. And I usually always say this in any interview I've done. I've been on TV several times. I've been on national TV. I've been in TV in China and several places, but I always say this. Now, in magic, there are 7 principles. You can make them disappear, reappear, so forth. Genres of magic, there are a couple of different ones. There are bizarre magic. People poke needles in their eyes and things like that, right? There are classical magic. There's grunge magic. There really are. There's a magician in Washington, I think it's Seattle. His stage name or something is Weedini. He wears a suit with marijuana plants, and he does magic specifically for the weed community and so forth. So I don't know if they do anything while the show's going on, but I know, so there's several different genres. There's mentalism, there's comedy magic, so forth. One question that I love to pose to people when that question comes out, and I ask them, who is a famous magician that the first magician? And the name that comes to most people's lips are Houdini. Right? If you ask someone who's the most famous, well, not directly the most famous, some people say David Copperfield, but the first magician,
I would have said David Copperfield, but Houdini is good too, yeah.
Right. So, and I ask this, and I tell people, please explore this and look this up. And matter of fact, I will show you a book that my associate wrote, and I'll grab that really quick. I'm still here on camera. So the first American magician was actually an African-American magician. His name was Potter. Almost not Harry Potter, but it was Richard Potter. His stage name was Black Herman, and he was way before Houdini. And so what's very interesting about this is if you look in the history books or look online, you'll see photos. He was a Black magician. He was born in 1776, I think it is. And he's on stage performing. And in the audience, here are white and Black people sitting together, forgetting their issues, forgetting. Now, after the show, they may have been like, hey, go back to your water fountain or whatever. But during that moment, magic brought them and forgot their issues. And they, and it was so powerful for me to learn that. He was a Black man that was doing magic before Houdini, but of course, most people know about Houdini. An associate of mine, his name is Rory, he wrote this book. It's called Henry Box Brown's Legacy. He performs magic as Henry Box Brown. Another thing you can look up, he was before Houdini as well. He was a slave in the South. He eventually got enough money and people to help him that he shipped himself, or they shipped him from the South to the North in a box. That's why it's called Box Brown. That was no bigger than, I think it, and I have to double check in the book, but it's 3x3. So imagine being a grown adult in a box where you cannot move back in the early 1800s, I think it was. And he was shipped by train. So it took days. He had no food, no water. But he was that desperate that he went in a box to get himself free. Then he went on to become a magician. And he would then travel the country and perform for the same people probably who he was enslaved to. It's a great read, and it tells about the actual history before Houdini. So that's one of the things I love talking about within why I started presenting magic in the way that I did, in the way it shaped me, because I wanted to tell a story than just do tricks. I wanted to express to people how we have so much magic in our life. And magic isn't just a trick. Magic could be that moment that you see a rainbow for the first time. That's magical. That's you like, wow, what is that, right? Magic could be a kid's first experience flying in a plane, seeing clouds, right? So that's why I wanted to share with people and kind of tell my story with it. I'm sorry, I go on a tangent. I love talking about this stuff.
No, that's, and that's really interesting to me because I will tell you, when I was growing up, I had one specific white guy friend who really, really liked to do magic. And he wanted me to be his beautiful assistant. And I was like, ew, no. So I kind of wrote magic off as kind of like this, oh, well, I have no place in magic because my only place is being the beautiful assistant, right? But then I started doing fringe festivals. And one of my first fringe friends is a guy named David Harada, who does a show about a Japanese magician. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then there was another guy I met at San Diego Fringe, Cody Clark, and he's autistic, and he does a show about being autistic and being a magician.
I love
and then
Cody.
He's awesome. And then I have a friend I went to high school with named Tori Noquez, who's a woman magician, and she's amazing. So it's really cool that as an adult, my lens on this is really shifting from this thing that I wrote off when I was a kid is, oh, like, that's not for you. That's not for anyone except for, certain people, right?
Right.
So that's really cool. Let me ask you this question. So It sounds like you got into magic when you were an adult, and you have some specific advice for people who are looking to pursue it professionally. What advice would you give to someone who is like an adult and is kind of just started like getting interested in magic? Like what should they do?
Yes. So in that case, I say absolutely do it. And I tell anyone that right now, I've told teachers, because I do lectures around the country and so forth, not just even in just regular talking. I mean, teachers or anyone, even if they're just an electrician or something, I say learn a magic trick. Because one, it is such a great tool to express yourself, to learn, a conversation starter, right? Even if it's just one trick. And I would tell teachers, learn a trick. Sometimes they're like, I don't know how to get my kids' attention in class. I said, do a magic trick for them. I can assure you, when people see, and I learned this from busking, right? When I would be on the streets, and especially in Vegas, oh my goodness. Magicians ask me, how do I learn? What can I do to learn? And I say, go to the streets. The streets will teach you. These people didn't pay a dime to see you. If you're not good, they're going to walk away. if you can keep their attention, it's telling you you're getting better. You go, okay, so then now analyze what do I need to do to keep their attention? What do I need to learn better, right? Even if you can learn one trick, if you're shy, you will get 10 people to come and watch your magic trick. One card trick, one coin trick. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or great. It can just be one little thing. I say learn it, because then it will help you come out of a shell if you are in one. And you don't have to start a conversation. I can literally be somewhere, and my wife knows it. She'll tell you. We'll be sitting in a hall at a casino or something, and I'm just got my cards and I'm just fidgeting with them. And all of a sudden someone's sitting down like, hey, do you do magic? Or they'll ask me something. And then like, oh yeah, my wife's like, no, don't do it. Because she knows if you ask me to do one trick, it's an old joke that says, how do you get a magician to do 1,000 tricks? Ask him to do one. Because now we got to keep going. We got to keep going. She's like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be late for dinner. So that would be my advice, is to learn anything, one thing. It doesn't have to be professional. It's a great way to learn, to come out of a shell, to have conversation. I carry cards with me all the time. And it's like even a thing behind me, I started learning to do math. Like these numbers here, I do math tricks. I do things with science. And that's one of the things I started doing within school. And I involve the Rubik's Cube. I do a trick where I'm blindfolded and I'm solving the Rubik's Cube. I started elevating my mind because it took me down one rabbit hole, and I started learning, what, wait, there's scientific principles in this? There's math principles in this? I can learn to do a trick that involves using the Pythagorean theory. And I'm like, what? So again, anyways, learn a trick. That's what I would say. Learn to do one thing.
And see, I'm walking away from this interview with, I'm a teacher and I teach middle school. I teach middle school drums. Okay. So my students are like notoriously difficult to rein in, shall we say. So this idea of a magic trick as classroom management, I think that's brilliant.
It is. And I used to get some not testimonials, but some letters written back and emails, and they would say, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Because now they would come in and their students would be like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what do you got for us today? And then they would learn how to take that and say, well, you know what? Well, depends on how good you are today. I'll show you one at the end of class. Or, be ready for tomorrow's trick. And now they go home and they Google what's a little, trick that I could do. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an actual magic trick, right? But now you've garnered their attention. It is amazing how magic, like I said, in the story with Richard Potter, how he got Black and white people to sit together for a little while because they were so interested in, like, wait, how did they no, that's not possible, right? And it is a great icebreaker to learn something, even if, for example, you did this thing that's on the board right here, and you said, hey guys, I'm gonna write on the chalkboard or something, and can anybody figure this out? I'll show you how to do this at the end. And it's a math equation, but it's turned into a magic trick, in a sense like that. And so now you've made them almost be like wanting to learn math a little bit more or something. But yeah, it's a great thing to do within almost any industry. I get hired sometimes for sales conference when they're doing a sales pitch, that kind of thing. And they're like, I've heard the same sales thing for 2 hours. Can you come in and break the monotony up for 25 minutes or something? And I'm like, sure.
That is really, really cool. So tell me when your show is happening at Tucson Fringe and where it's happening, so folks who are watching this know where to find you.
Okay, absolutely. And here's a short thing too with the show. I specifically do a lot of things that I do in my marketing on purpose. So in a lot of the shows I've seen, people had write-ups of what this show is in reference to what it's going to be. And my show simply says The Hustle. 3 dots and ellipses, and that's it. Nothing else. It doesn't tell you what it's about. Why is it? Because I don't want you to have any preconceived notions. I do want you to come, of course, but I don't want you to go, magic's, I don't know. No, it's a magic show. Because people think magic, oh, that's great. The kids will love that. They don't think it's for adults, right? So time-wise, matter of fact, let me just double check. I want to bring this up correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I get so excited about things. I jibber jabber. and I don't talk. Let's see. Let me just make sure I have this. I took a screenshot, and my wife is always like, "You need to take a screenshot of everything," because she knows how my brain, my adult ADHD. I am like, I forgot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm the same.
So let's see. Okay, here we go. So it is the first night. It is at 6:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m., and it is at the Cabaret Theater. That is on Thursday, January 13th. January the 14th, it is at, they just moved me. I just got a time change. So it's at 7:30 on January the 14th, Friday. And then Saturday, it is at, oh, make sure I'm there. Oh, 12:30. Okay, 12:30 on Saturday as well. What I will be doing though, during that show, is I will be out on the streets doing some magic as well, just to kind of market it and, just have fun and show some people a couple of things here and there.
That's a great area to do it too.
Oh,
Like that
great.
downtown Tucson area, like it's
Yeah.
you'll find lots of people.
Great. And you know what? I would love to show you one more.
Show me.
If I can. Oh, hey babe, are you there? Oh, you know what? Let me get off camera really quick to grab it. All right. So really quick, I'm gonna still keep talking so you can hear my voice.
I hear you. Loud and clear.
All right. So I've got my deck of cards right here. And I'm going to show you an example of how we talk about influence, right? Okay. So we are influenced so much in our life with things that we see around us. It doesn't matter. We don't know sometimes. We have colors. Certain colors can make you feel something. You're sitting down, you're watching TV. You're not hungry, but then you say to yourself, you know what? I see a pizza commercial. And you're like, oh, I want some pizza, okay? So now, here's what I want you to do. I would like for you, I have a deck of 52 different cards. I just want you in your mind to think of any one card. Most people usually do the Queen of Hearts or the Ace of Spades. You can if you like, but that's what they choose most of the time. But I want you just to think of any card and let me know once you've got it.
Got it.
Got it? All right. Mm-hmm. So now, for the first time, I just want you to tell me what that card was.
Just tell you?
Yes.
Okay, it was the 8 of spades.
8? The ace?
The 8.
8. Okay, the 8 of spades. And I want to see, let's see if I get that on camera.
Yep.
Okay, so the 8 of spades. All right, so I'm going to sit the 8 of spades down right there. Okay? So then now I'm going to put the rest of the deck away. Okay. And that's going to be very important of why I'm doing that, because I don't want you to think I'm using the rest of the deck for anything specific. All right. So then now I want you to remember how I told you about influence. Mm-hmm. That felt, when you chose the 8 of spades, that felt like it was a free choice. Would you say?
It was a free choice.
I would like to tell you that it was actually influenced by me.
Okay.
Remember how I said we see things in life, but we don't always know what it means? Mm-hmm. You chose the 8 of spades because I influenced you to do so. Mm-hmm. You saw the 8 of spades unconsciously. You didn't know it. This whole time, remember I kept flashing the deck up to you? Mm-hmm. I just want you to take a look at the card deck.
Oh my God.
It says the 8 of spades.
Wow.
So it's a little short thing of kind of how I talk about influence. And I've learned this, and that's why I say I use a lot of psychological principles. When I was in school, I love psychology. I just didn't have enough patience to be a psychologist. But I use those principles, and if you hear a sound, little things, NLP, I use a lot in my show, neuro-linguistic programming. How salespeople use it. They get you to say yes 7 times before they want to hear a no, kind of a thing. Voice inflection, certain things. I use at specific moments to get you to pick a certain card or pick a certain item that I want you to pick. So it doesn't always work because it's not magic. It's, some scientific principles, but majority of the time they do. And that's just a small example of, showing that. So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
wild. I'm gonna be Googling that one for sure.
Yeah, so just a little small little thing that I said you can do, and they don't take long. You can do some tricks like that. It took maybe a minute to 2 minutes. You can shorten it for maybe students in class, like I said, and
Oh, the shorter the better.
yeah, you can just do something like that and just grab their attention. Like, all right, if you do well today, I'll show you something else tomorrow, or once a week or whatever. And they'll be messaging you. Are we going to see this tomorrow? So,
I love it. So how
you.
can folks follow you or find you on social media if they want to see more?
So let's see. I have this thing, and this is something that I use for my Zoom shows and stuff. I didn't prepare it. So, but let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So if folks, let's see if it comes up on technology sometime. Oh, there it goes. Like and share, for example, right? But no, if they want to follow me, they can follow me on any of my social media things. And I'm trying to see if I can bring it up here really quick. All my social medias are at Lion Fludd, my first and last name, at Lion Fludd. Across the board, Twitter, social media, Facebook, Instagram, anything. You can follow me there. I also have this texting thing that's called Community, and this is my community number, which means my fans and anyone can text me directly. It's something that, and I jokingly say this, I'm a D-list celebrity here, but it's a thing that actual celebrities have, that which you can directly text them and they can answer back. You can't call them. They set it up specifically for that, but they can text me or they can reach out to me if they have any questions, maybe for themselves or their kids. How can my son or my daughter, someone get married or not get married, because I don't want to give you that advice, but how can they get involved into magic? I am more than happy to kind of, throw that out there and tell you guys, and you'll be excited too.
Wow, you are a master at Zoom, among other things. That was
I'm
pretty
trying.
cool.
I had to learn. I was forced to learn.
Absolutely, we all were. But hey, you know what? I am so bummed I'm not going to be in Tucson in person to see your show, but I'm really, really glad that we got to talk today. And if you are at Tucson Fringe, by all means, you need to go and see The Hustle, because this is a different kind of magic, I think, and it looks like you're going to have a blast. So thank you so much, Lion Fludd.
Thank you guys so much. I sincerely appreciate that. Sometimes I got to give myself an applause. So thank you guys. Thank you.
All right.